Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast with your hosts, Reese Downing and Jacob Workman.
What's going on, guys? It is TNT Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast, NFL edition, Week 18 picks. We are finally to the last week of the regular season. With me, as always, is the fine citizen, Mr. Jacob Workman, and we also have the old ninja himself joining us for the NFL and the college episode today. Scott, thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
Let's hop right in here. We're gonna start off with a quick recap from the records from last week. We do have one game left. Obviously, the Lions game is coming up here shortly. Jake's record so far for the week is 9-6. His lock is Detroit, so still out on that one for the game against the Niners. Did miss his dog in Green Bay. Total for the year is 133-119. I went 5-10. I had a rough week last week. My lock for this week is also Detroit, so that's still up in the air. I did miss my dog in Atlanta. I'm sitting at 131 and 121. Jake, we got anything for Vegas for week 17?
Not really, other than it was a huge week for the favorites. I think there was like one or two straight up that lost. All the other ones won.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, let's hop right into week 17 results. The Chiefs went into Pittsburgh on a super short runway for 3 games in a row. They beat the Steelers 29-10. Ravens flew to Houston. They held the Texans to just a safety, won that game 31-2. Seahawks beat the Bears 6-3 in one of the lowest scoring games in the history of the league. Chargers beat the Patriots 40-7. They have clinched a playoff berth with the victory. The Bengals are trying to continue to claw their way back into the playoffs, beating the Broncos in overtime 30-24. The Rams beat the Cardinals 13-9, and they clinched the NFC West title and a playoff berth. The Giants beat the Colts 45-33. I'm going to pause here because there's a whole lot of conversation coming out of this game. We'll start with Scott here. Ian Rappaport came out, I believe it was earlier today, and said that the consensus is that Anthony Richardson is going to be the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts to start the 2025 season. I know that's your favorite player. What are your thoughts on having another season kicked off with AR under center?
Well, I'm glad that the Rapport got that, but it's hard for administrations, whether they're football or otherwise, admit when they've made a mistake and a rather large one. The sooner they cut him and go and find whatever their plan B is, the better off the franchise be. I hate to see great players like Forrest Buckner pissing away the prime years of their contracts or their career with a middling 50% career passing, often injured, great runner type player. But it's time to cut that rope and say, we didn't do what we wanted to do. I understand why they tried for it, but the results are there for everybody to see. Now, whether it costs the GM his job if he comes back to it next year, but it's easy to say whatever you want to say now. But let's look at the film and go back, and I certainly hope they take a do-over.
Jake, what are your thoughts? I know we talked about this a little bit last week, I believe, when Carter was on the show. He's got a little bit different of opinion on AR.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obvious that he's going to be the starter next year. Like, I don't understand why he wouldn't be. He hasn't played enough really for them to give up on him yet because of what they used to get him. I do think Ballard's going to be gone. I even saw reports today that people are rumoring that maybe even Peyton Manning coming in as the GM, which would be crazy. I know he's got kind of a lot more ties to Denver at this point than he does Indy, but I would think that would be an interesting hire. I know that they're kind of losing all their fan base. Pat McAfee went on a huge thing on Twitter yesterday talking about everything that has gone on. Obviously, he has insides in the locker room still, talking about how players are late for training, late for meetings, skipping stuff. Obviously, the culture is just pure shit, which obviously, I mean, to me, you got to put that on Steichen because you can't allow that. So I don't know how far he'll get. I mean, I think last year I was I liked Steichen. This year it's kind of been, where did it all go? Like, I feel like he completely became a different person this year. Yeah, that's a terrible situation going on there. I don't know what the answer is. If I'm Colts fans and I'm Jim Irsay, I'm saying, yeah, Peyton obviously is the person that I think would be a smart hire at GM and go from there. If that means Steichen gets fired as a result of that, so be it. Obviously, it's not too much at this point anyway. But the division's not. I mean, it's a winnable division at this point. There's no one that's fantastic. I mean, Houston, yeah, that Houston has talent, but again, I think it's a winnable division with the right situation.
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of years, it's been difficult to pick who's going to come out on top in the AFC South. So that's been an interesting division to look at. If they do end up getting rid of Steichen, Scott, who would you like to see them go after? A more established coaching name, or would you like to see them bring in a Colth faithful and give a Reggie Wayne type character, somebody that's been a part of the franchise for a really long time, maybe has some coaching experience, but not necessarily at the head coach a shot?
No, I'm not a big fan of that at all. I think it's hard to point to a whole lot of successes where, you know, a position coach or a former lineman becomes the head coach. I just no. You're talking about a franchise that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and to bring in a position coach just because he's got ties to the team. You know, if you look at the Colts receivers this year, yes, they're better, but I don't know that you could translate Reggie Wayne into being the head coach. I don't like Peyton Manning being the GM. He just no experience whatsoever.
Wow.
The only one I can think of that has done well was Elway didn't do a bad job, but he also
John Lynch.
I was going to say John Lynch.
John Lynch, you know, he had some. Well, okay, you got my one. you got the one. But you look at the San Francisco team this year. You know, it's just hard to do it year after year after year, and if you have no experience at doing it, you know, the meditating Manning from his advertisements with Nationwide is great. It's funny, but let's stay there. You know, make your millions doing that. Your children's hospital has a wing with your name on it in Indianapolis, which is fantastic. But no, hard no on the Brent come back as a GM. The Lions have two excellent coordinators. Let's go talk to them, and you know, that'd be my first place I'd start.
Yeah, no, Jake, that's the last place Jake wants you to start, but that I do definitely think that makes sense.
I mean, I'm cool if anyone wants Aaron Glenn. Take Aaron Glenn, please. Just leave Ben.
Just leave Ben, yeah. I also appreciated the slight dig at Jeff Saturday there. That was smooth. Yeah, so sticking with this game, as the Giants beat the Colts 45-33, not only is it a circus in Indianapolis, but the Giants, by winning that game, have slid from the number 1 draft pick down to the 4th draft pick now, is what it looks like. And by a lot of people's opinions, there's 2 quarterbacks that are looking like they're top 10 potential material, and that's Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. And unless they have an opportunity to trade up and the 3 teams that are ahead of them all somehow happen to win, the Giants played themselves out of a number 1 pick on Sunday. Which poses the question, and I saw a lot of shows talking about this today. If you're in that position and you have an opportunity for a first-round pick, as a coach, do you play for the first-round pick knowing that it's a franchise changer, or do you play to win the game, especially in Brian Daboll's situation where he very well may not even be there to coach the next quarterback?
Well, I mean, there's always been the situations. The Colts had the suck for luck. The Bucks in week 17 at that time, which was the last game, literally pulled their starters at halftime so they would lose to get Jameis. So, I mean, there's teams that have clearly thrown games to get number 1 picks. Honestly, though, I don't. Shedeur and Cam are not. They're not franchise quarterbacks to me. So I'm honestly cool with just winning. And I think it's interesting now because we honestly might be looking at a Tetairoa McMillan number 1 overall pick. I think he will be the Patriots pick, and obviously they'll probably trade down. But could you imagine Tetairoa McMillan being the number 1 pick of the draft? I think that's awesome. I'm all for that.
Yeah, I think it's pretty crazy. I do think that it puts the Patriots in a tremendous position because they don't need that number 1 pick for a quarterback because they've got Drake May, and to be able to trade back and be able to stock up on more picks makes that job, if they do let go of Gerard Mayo, which I know he's only been there for 1 year, but I mean, Pierce is talking about potentially getting fired. Gerard Mayo may potentially get let go. That makes that job a hell of a lot more appetizing for somebody that's coming in, knowing that you're going to be able to get a bunch of extra picks there. Yeah, so I just found that interesting. I knew where you were at with both Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders not being number one pick material, but I found it interesting that the Giants ended up winning that game by 12 and knocked themselves out of pick number one. So all right, let's keep it moving here. A couple additional games to come through from week 17. The Bills beat the Jets 40-14. The Jags beat the Titans 20-13. Raiders beat the Saints 25-10. The Bucks beat the Panthers 48-14. Eagles destroyed the Cowboys 41-7. That was an ugly game. Dolphins beat the Browns 20-3. The Vikings beat the Packers 27-25, which was a pretty entertaining game. The Commanders
No, it wasn't.
For you, it wasn't. The Commanders beat the Falcons in overtime 30-24, and they have clinched their first playoff berth since 2020. And then as a reminder, Monday Night Football game tonight has the 13-2 Detroit Lions traveling to the Bay Area to take on the 6-9 San Francisco 49ers. Over under in that one, when we picked games last week, was 51.5. Detroit was favored by 3.5. Both Jake and myself picked Detroit to not only cover, but those are also our locks for this week. Going into the updated playoff picture, which we're going to look at here in a second, anything else worth calling out here from week 17 games?
Actually, I think the cream of the crop this year seems to have separated itself more than most years. There doesn't seem, the playoff spots, not much going into that last week. I'm really surprised at how much that has happened this year. We've had some great run-ups in the previous years with everything going on, but this year, the news actually seems to be pretty quiet.
Yeah, it seems like stuff is kind of starting to settle out there a little bit. All right, well, let's kick it off here before we get into the playoff picture. Just a few more items to cover. Congrats to Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson, who broke Mike Vick's record for the career rushing yards at quarterback. He's only 27 years old. That seems like one of those records that's probably going to stand for quite a long time once Lamar hangs up his cleats. Congrats also go out to Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce, who made history on Christmas by passing franchise icon Tony Gonzalez on the Chiefs all-time touchdown catch list. Teddy Bridgewater said he was coming back, and he is back. He is coming out of retirement and has signed with the Motor City Lions ahead of the playoffs. Saquon Barkley has become the 9th player in NFL history to rush for 2,000 yards in the season, and now he just needs 101 rushing yards in their Week 18 matchup against his former team in the New York Football Giants to break Eric Dickerson's single season rushing record, which is 2105 set in 1984. And I just think it's so entertaining how many times I've seen that clip of Joe Shane saying,
yeah,
it's not like he's going to be a 2,000 yard back, in his next season. You're talking about eating words. Shane's days are numbered, I think. The Cleveland Browns have adjusted quarterback Deshaun Watson's contract to allow for some flexibility, with plans to keep him on the roster as the starting QB for 2025. Outside linebacker Shaq Barrett, who we talked about recently coming back out of retirement, he was released by the Dolphins and cleared waivers. He has now signed with Tampa Bay, so he may get a chance to play in the playoffs. Raiders rookie tight end Brock Bowers continues setting records. He's now broken Mike Ditka's 63-year-old record for most receiving yards by a rookie tight end. And the Jets are interviewing former Commanders and Panthers head coach Ron Rivera for their vacant head coaching position. That is the first head coach that they have interviewed. So we'll keep an eye on that.
I think they're interviewing Rex Ryan also.
Oh, okay. So they're diving down the list very quickly.
Yeah, right.
I'm waiting to see when I see Bill Belichick's name pop back up, because it's only a matter of time.
Right.
There's a reason that contract was structured the way it was. A couple quick updates on injuries. CeeDee Lamb's been shut down for the last 2 games of the season. He's been fighting through a really significant shoulder injury. They decided to have him hang it up for the rest of the year. Same goes for the Seahawks running back Kenneth Walker. He's going to be out for the last week of the season. And Tua Tagovailoa is questionable with a hip injury for Week 18. That's something to keep an eye on, because the Fins are in a tight spot to potentially make the playoffs, depending on how some things shake out. And that's what we want to look at next here. So this is the current playoff picture. Hold tight with me, because there's a lot of scenarios to go over here. We're going to start on the NFC side. Minnesota is currently sitting in the number 1 spot after their win against the Packers, only because the Lions haven't played yet. So Minnesota, for the Lions to clinch the 1 seed through the playoffs, they either need to beat the Vikings in Week 18 or beat the Niners tonight and then at least tie Minnesota in Week 18. For Minnesota to clinch the 1 seed, they either need to beat the Lions in week 18 or they need to tie the Lions in week 18 and have Detroit either lose or tie against the Niners tonight. So basically, in either scenario, the Lions control their destiny. They beat the Vikings in week 18 and they clinch. So as Workman was talking about, the game tonight really doesn't matter that much. Philly is locked in at the 2 seed. The Rams are also locked in as the 3 seed. That defense is looking damn good as this season progresses. That's a young squad. McVay's got those guys running around the field.
Pretty good guys from a team that was only a quarterback, you know.
Still salty. Tampa is currently in control of the 4 seed. If they beat the Saints next week, they clinch the NFC South. If they lose to the Saints and the Falcons beat the Panthers, Atlanta is going to hop Tampa and land in the 4 seed. Neither of these teams can make the playoffs as a wild card, so it's either win the division or you're out. The Packers, who won last week's Monday Night Football game and clinched a playoff berth, is still up in the air on where they're going to land for seeding. They were sitting in the 6th spot, but because of the Commanders' win, the Commanders have hopped them and are now sitting in the 6th seed. So the loss of the Vikings last night hurt Packers fans a little bit. Now it looks like you guys are going to be traveling to Philly in the wild card matchup. The only way the Packers have a chance to move back into the 6th spot is if the Cowboys beat the Commanders and then the Packers also beat the Bears. So the NFC side is still flushing around a little bit. The big thing here is that 1 seed that's going to be determined in week 18. The last game of the regular season is going to be played Sunday night, Minnesota versus Detroit in Detroit. We'll get thoughts on that game here shortly. On the AFC side, the Chiefs have clinched the AFC West in the 1 seed, so they will have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. The Bills have clinched the AFC East and the 2 seed. The rest of the seeding here is still a little bit up in the air. So currently the Ravens control the AFC North and own the 3 seed. For the Steelers to hop back into the 3 spot, they need to beat the Bengals in Pittsburgh, and the Ravens need to lose to the 3-13 Browns in Baltimore. If that happens, Pittsburgh would host a wild card game. Their first round matchup would be against the 6 seed LA Chargers, who have clinched their own playoff spot. If the Steelers win, but the Ravens also win, then Pittsburgh's going to land in the 5 seed. They're going to travel to Houston to play the Texans in the wild card. If the Steelers lose and the Chargers beat the Raiders, the Chargers will claim the 5 seed. The Steelers will slide down to 6, and they're going to head to Baltimore to play the Ravens. So we'll have an AFC North matchup in the wild card round. There's 3 teams that are currently vying for the 7th spot. Right now, Denver is sitting in the 7th seed. They have the easiest scenario. Beat the Chiefs, which is a team that's likely to sit all of their starters in a non-important game. They'll clinch that 7th spot. For the Dolphins to get in, they need to beat the Jets in East Rutherford, and they need the Broncos to lose against the Chiefs. For the Bengals to get into the playoffs, they'll need to beat the Steelers, have Miami lose their game against the Jets, and have the Broncos lose their game against the Chiefs in Denver. So there's still a little bit of chaos happening here in the playoff picture. Jake, what are your thoughts on where things sit right now, and what do you think is, any games that you specifically think are going to shuffle between now and the end of next week?
Yeah, that AFC thing you just said is interesting because the way that they did the schedule, they're playing on Saturday and the Ravens play first. So if the Ravens win, the Steelers really have no reason to play guys. So they could essentially lose that game. I don't think it's that far-fetched that the Chiefs play their starters maybe a couple of drives and then take guys out. They've already clinched the bye. Or even Carson Wentz. I mean, it's still a decent quarterback to come in behind. I think the Chiefs backups could still potentially win that game. Do you imagine if Cincinnati backdoors their way into these playoffs? That would be insane.
Yeah.
So I do think that those scenarios do at least hold a little bit of fun factor for us for Saturday and Sunday on the AFC side. NFC side, like you said, the number 1 seed all comes down to Sunday night. Obviously, that's going to be an enormous game. Thankfully, it is on our home field. As we talked in the last episode, in the college episode, it is tough to beat a team twice. We have already beat the Vikings this year. So that's a gird up your loins game. That'll be a big one. Obviously the matchups are great. I mean, Packers Eagles, that's what we saw week 1 in Brazil. So and it was a great game. Now we're going to bring it back to Philadelphia for that one. Rams Commanders would be excellent. I think that's another fun game to watch. And Tampa, whoever Tampa plays, is going to be hosting a team that has 14 wins, which is crazy. And Tampa's Tampa. I know Minnesota or Detroit, neither one of us really want to go to Tampa right now. So there's a lot of situations. I think it's going to be in the playoffs. I mean, it's wide. I think that NFC side is going to be wide open.
Yeah, I agree with you. Scott, what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree completely on the NFC side. You look at the from top to bottom, who couldn't win any of those games or make a run. Even a Tampa Bay. What have they done? Baker Mayfield. Where's this guy come from? He sat on the bottom of my fantasy football team all season long, and who saw that coming? The AFC. I'd love to see the Bengals get in just because the animosity between them and the Steelers and the Ravens. Yeah, I just love the drama part of it. I agree with you. The Chiefs, probably their backups are enough. Carson Wentz as a backup is pretty good. He didn't work out for a bunch of teams, but he's not carrying the load, and just for one game, I can see him strapping it up, and even with the secondary or the second teamers in there, winning that one. And the Broncos, boy, you look at all the other teams in that AFC, and they probably have the least amount of talent, least amount to get it done. So the AFC definitely seems a lot more top heavy, and the NFC, I just think that's going to be fun to watch. Sit back, and if you're a Lions fan and you watched that last year at the Dome, just noise and excitement, and whoever you rooted for, that was just a fun game to watch. So I'm really looking forward, especially the NFC side this year.
Yeah, that's what I'm really hoping we can get the win Sunday, because if the playoffs go through Detroit, to win 2 home games against what would probably be, I would say either the Packers or Commanders could potentially win. So I would say we'd play them in our first game. Then obviously it would be probably the Eagles essentially in the NFC Championship. Like those are 2 fun games. I that first round's insane. Like I think anyone can win any of those games.
And to the point you were just making, like I would love to see the Bengals find their way to sneak into this playoffs, because watching Cincy go up against Josh Allen in the wild card rounds, that is not a guaranteed win for Buffalo. The way that Burrow's been playing this year, it's going to be a shootout. And we saw what happened when Buffalo went to Detroit. I think we could see a similar style game there. That would be such a fun matchup if that ends up happening. So we'll update this obviously after the end of next week and get you guys updates on where everything sits. But this is the current layout. So let's hop into our last regular season picks of the year.
That's crazy to think.
Yeah, I know. We're kicking off. This is obviously divisional showdown week, right? So it's going to kick off on Saturday with 2 AFC North matchups. The first is the 3-13 Cleveland Browns heading to Mobtown to battle the 11-5 Baltimore Ravens. 4:30 p.m. at M&T Bank Stadium on ESPN. Over under is 42.5. Baltimore is favored by 17.5. Jake.
Yeah, I'm kind of anti-Cleveland since they pulled Jameis. DTR was horrendous last week, and they still didn't put Jameis back in. I didn't understand that. I don't know. Baltimore doesn't – I mean, I know they have a little bit to play for, but this game I feel like is going to get out of hand pretty quick. 17.5 is a lot, though. You know what? Give me a Browns cover. I'll say the Ravens win by 15.
Scott?
That's hard to argue with. The Browns don't have anything to play with. They love the coach, but their quarterback situation is a mess, and I don't think bringing back Sean Watson is actually going to do well for them. But coming back to this season, 17.5 is a huge number. That might be larger than all the other games. Not quite, but that's still a huge number. I expect the Browns to cover and Baltimore to be done by halftime.
Yeah, we'll talk about this in a little bit here, but I am also going to take Cleveland to cover. The second Saturday AFC North face-off has the 8-8 Cincinnati Bengals heading to Steel City, fighting for a playoff spot as they face off against the 10-6 Pittsburgh Steelers. 8 p.m. kickoff at Acrisure Stadium on ESPN. Over/under in this one is 48.5, and Cincy is favored by 1.5. Jake?
Yeah, I talked about this earlier. If the Ravens win that game, Pittsburgh has nothing to play for in this one, and they can essentially rest guys going into the playoffs the following week. I'll take Cincinnati to cover this.
Scott?
I'm in the same boat. It all depends on what Baltimore does and how much Pittsburgh's involved in it. I'm going Cincinnati.
Yeah, I don't care if Pittsburgh rests their starters or plays them through all 4 quarters, I'm still taking the Bengals in this one. I think they've got a little bit to play for here. I think Burrow's going to do everything he can to try to put them in a spot to make the playoffs. Our Sunday early day game matchups kick off with an NFC South showdown as the 4-12 Carolina Panthers head to Hotlanta to take on Michael Penix and the 8-8 Atlanta Falcons. 1 p.m. at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on CBS. Over/under in this one is 48.5. The Falcons are favored by 7.5. Jake?
Yeah, Penix looked good again last night. Coming into his own. Carolina seemed to be kind of falling apart again, which is expected as the season goes on and your 4-win team. I like Atlanta here, and I know they still have a little bit of an outside hope to make the playoffs, but I'll take Atlanta to cover this one.
Scott?
Carolina, they're packed up, ready to go to Aruba or Mexico or wherever it is that you go in the first week or two out of your season. Atlanta, I love watching Michael Penix play. Glad to see that he was able to get the opportunity, and what a young, accurate passer. Yes, that's a AR reference. Will do for a team. Just him and Washington's quarterback. Both. I really like watching them. Yeah, Daniels. Young, accurate, mobile, all those good things. They play a lot of football before they came into the NFL. Hint to Colts. But Atlanta 7.5. I'm not sure that's going to be enough. I think they're starting to get on a roll, and it's just kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, Carolina, like you guys were saying, didn't look great last week. Atlanta still has that outside shot to make the playoffs, so I'm going to take Atlanta here to win and cover as well. Next up is an NFC East matchup as the 11-5 Washington Commanders head to Jerry World to battle the 7-9 Dallas Cowboys. 1 p.m. at AT&T Stadium on Fox. Over/under is 44.5. Washington is favored by 3.
Yeah, I'm going to take Washington -3 here. I don't know Dallas. Dallas without CeeDee Lamb is a much different team. And this game honestly is very meaningless. So I'll take Washington -3.
Scott?
CeeDee Lamb, I think that's probably the right decision. They're not just looking at a wasted year this year. They've kind of waved the white flag. So I actually think that's a pretty good idea. Washington's got more to play for, and they're rolling into the playoffs. So, I don't know where Dallas's offense comes from. So definitely Commanders and let it roll.
Yeah, watching that game against Philly, you could definitely tell that there's a huge drop-off between Lamb and Cooks as our wideout one. Kudos to CeeDee Lamb, man, because he's been playing with that shoulder injury for the past 6 weeks, and you can tell times where he is just in immense pain, and the dude kept playing despite the fact that our season was over as soon as Dak went down. So kudos to him. I love CeeDee Lamb. I hope he's a Cowboy for life. I am glad that they shut him down, and I am going to take the Commanders as well to win and cover this one. Next up, we have NFC North matchup as the 4-12 Chicago Bears head to Titletown to take on the 11-5 Green Bay Packers. 1 p.m. at Lambeau Field on Fox. Over/under is 40.5. Green Bay is favored by 9.5.
Yeah, 9.5 seems like a lot in this one, to be honest. I don't. The Bears are not that bad of a team. They're just. I feel like they have enough to hang with it. I know the Packers probably want to come out and show something going into the playoffs after what they showed last week, but I think this is too much. I'm going to take the Bears plus 9.5.
Scott?
Well, we look at the 4-12 Bears much differently do the 4-12 Panthers. I think they've just got more talent. I still have a question mark about Williams as the quarterback, but I don't think that's going to make a difference at all this week. 9.5. The Packers heading to the playoffs. Chicago once again making those vacation plans and seeing where it's warm. So Packers, and I don't think 9.5 is enough.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Scott on this one. I'm going to take Green Bay to win and cover here. There's a little bit to play for here to possibly shift from that 7 back up to that 6 spot, depending on what happens with Washington. So I'm going to take Green Bay here to win and cover. The AFC South is next as the 9-7 Houston Texans head to Nash Vegas to take on the 3-13 Tennessee Titans. 1 p.m. at Nissan Stadium on CBS. Over/under is 37.5. Titans come in favored by 1.5.
Yeah, I'm guessing this is a situation where Houston's resting their whole team. So I'll give Tennessee a shot, even though they struggle to beat anyone. They lose every game by 3 points, I feel, but we'll give them a shot here to win this one. So I'll take Tennessee.
Scott?
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I think Houston definitely is going to, at halftime, you're going to see a whole lot of names and numbers that you're not accustomed to seeing. Tennessee's going to keep it close, just because of who's playing and what they're playing for. So the Houston, and I think they're gonna take it.
Yeah, I know Houston's already locked into the 4 seed, but they have to figure out what the hell is going to happen with this offense. Scoring 2 points against Baltimore last week, that makes me think that they're going to play a little bit in Week 18 to try to figure something out there. I don't know if they're going to play starters for the whole game in this one. I also don't trust the Titans to win a game that they should win because they've bit me in the ass before this year. So I'm going to take Houston here to win and cover the points.
Yeah, I was just going with Vegas usually knows, and there's no way Tennessee would be favored. So that's got to be.
You would think.
That's the sign, yeah.
You would think. All right, so let's see here. We're going to keep it rolling with the AFC South as the 4-12 Jacksonville Jaguars head to Circle City to battle the 7-9 Indianapolis Colts, 1 p.m. at Lucas Oil Stadium on Fox. Over under, and this one's 45.5. The Glue Factory is favored by 5.5.
Yeah, it will 100% be the Glue Factory because this is their arch nemesis. The Jags always beat the Colts, so I'm on Jacksonville straight up in this one.
Scott?
Yeah, I'm actually. I hate to agree with you this much, but I definitely think Jacksonville got Indianapolis number. That loss last week to the lowly Giants. You know what that locker room's got to be going through right now.
Yep.
Then they're out. So if they hadn't made their hotel and travel reservations by last week, they have for this week. Those private jets can be lined up at Indianapolis Airport by 4:00 on the afternoon. So I'm saying Jacksonville takes it, and they're going to wave each other at the airport and heading out of town.
I dig it. I am also taking Jacksonville. Whatever plane Irsay's on, there's probably going to be some snow in the plane as well as outside of it. Let's move on to the next game here. AFC East. We have the 13-3 Buffalo Bills flying to Foxborough to face off against the 3-13 New England Patriots. 1 p.m. at Gillette Stadium on CBS. Over under is 38.5. Pats are favored by 2.5.
Yeah, this week is obviously impossible. This is like a preseason week with all the backups playing. I don't even know if I want to take New England, to be honest, in this. I'll take New England at home. I do like what Drake May's been doing. He's had a hell of a year, so I'll give Drake May a chance here.
Scott?
I like what he's done. I like the fact that they brought him along slowly. Yeah, he looks like he's got potential, and they haven't just thrown him to the wolves completely. They've had a rough year at 13-3 or 3-13, but I don't think that they've got enough talent on that team to compare with the Bills, who are rolling. They're just a better team all the way through. So I'm going Bills straight up.
I'm actually with Scott on this one. I mean, the Bills are going to be resting the starters, but if I'm the Patriots, I'm putting Shane Falco and Clifford Franklin out there.
They got the number one pick.
Maintain that number one spot. I'm taking Buffalo here. I think there's probably a lot of guys that are second stringers on Buffalo's team that are better than the starters in New England. So let's go Buffalo there, plus the 2.5. All right. The second of our NFC East matchups features the 3-13 New York Football Giants as they head to Quaker City to take on the 13-3 division champion Philadelphia Eagles. 1 p.m. at Lincoln Financial Field on CBS. Over under in this one is 38.5. Philly is favored by 3. And just as a reminder, Saquon Barkley needs 101 yards in order to break the regular season rushing record. Jake?
Yeah, obviously it's a little skewed getting the extra game, but if I was Philly, I'm not sure I'd be playing guys here. That's kind of what makes me wonder what they're going to do. I hate this week with all the nonsense. I'll take Philly -3, but I don't like it.
Scott?
I know Saquon's right there. I hate seeing Eric Dickerson that has sent the yards since '84. I really like seeing that. Yeah, I got the extra game and all, but with the way injuries have jumped up and bit people, I'm not sure that I would play him past halftime. See what it's like at the end of the first quarter. Hey, you're on the roll. You got 50 yards. Okay, you got the second quarter to get it done. but after that, we're shutting you down. We get it or don't. But I think the whole rest of the season means so much. The 2,000 yards rushing from him this season, that's just amazing. And of course, everybody remembers the backward leap. I love seeing the fact he got away from New York, and New York's got nothing vested. They're getting ready to go. So Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think it's likely. I don't know what's going to happen because we've seen situations before where Saquon was going to break records and he's like, put the young guys in. I don't care more about. I mean, Saquon wants a Super Bowl. That's what he's looking for, right? So for that purpose, I don't know how long they're going to play him. I do think it's interesting that we call out the extra game when Dickerson broke the record from Walter Payton. He had 2 extra games when he broke the record because I believe Walter Payton only played 14 as opposed to the 16 that Dickerson did. So it's just interesting to think through that. My
Was it
problem is
Payton or Simpson?
Say that again.
I thought it was OJ that had the record.
I'm pretty sure it was Walter Payton, but I could be wrong there. Either way, like there's that extension of the regular season. I think you just go back through and look at these games. It's kind of hard to register how these records should actually be measured.
Yeah, that's why stats are kind of ridiculous because especially they're getting ready to add another game too. When they add another game, I mean that record's gone instantly, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, for sure. So either way, I don't trust this Giants team. Even if Saquon's in for a quarter, they may be up by 20 by the end of the first quarter. So I'm going to take Philly here to win and cover. Next up is the second of our NFC South battles as the 5-11 New Orleans Saints head to the Gulf to take on the 9-7 Tampa Bay Bucks. 1 p.m. at the Ray J on Fox. Over under is 43.5. Tampa Bay is favored by 13.5.
Yeah, Tampa still has something to actually play for. The Saints, I said at the beginning of the year, were horrendous. They've proven that week by week. I like Tampa to go out and put an absolute show on here.
Scott?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely going to be the way it goes. Tampa's got something to play for. They're hot. Baker's playing extremely well. Mike Evans, I'm not sure how old he is, but he's getting it done. So yeah, I don't think it'll be much of a game. If you're a Tampa Bay fan, you're going to enjoy it. If you're Saints, you've stopped watching.
Fair enough. Yep, I'm with you. I think Tampa Bay locks into the playoffs, so I am going to take Tampa Bay here to win and cover. We've got 2 AFC West battles next to kick off the afternoon games. First one being the 15-1 and locked-in division champion and AFC 1 seed Kansas City Chiefs. Traveling to the Rockies to take on the 9-7 and playoff hunting Denver Broncos. 4:25 p.m. kickoff at Mile High Stadium on CBS. Over under, and this one is 39.5. Denver is favored by 8.5.
Yeah, as of time of recording Monday night, still no official word if the Chiefs are playing or not. Obviously, by that line, Vegas clearly thinks the Chiefs are not playing. But I still think they can go in and cover this. I think they can cover the 8.5. So I'll take the Chiefs.
Scott?
Yeah, I think that a lot of backup players are playing for contracts and exposure for the Chiefs. They want to put good film on there for a contract this year, next year. So I think the Chiefs are really going to have something to go for, and they're just the mentality of that team. I don't think they're going to take the foot off the gas no matter who's out there. So I think the Chiefs are going to roll.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this partially is going to come down to coaching. But anytime I have an opportunity to pick Kansas City Chiefs and get 8.5 points, I don't care if it's the second stringers playing or not. I'm going to take that. So I am also going to take KC here. Next up is the 10-6 Los Angeles Chargers as they head to Paradise for a showdown against the 4-12 Las Vegas Raiders. 4:25 p.m. at Allegiant Stadium on CBS. Over under 41.5. Chargers are favored by 5.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the Chargers in this one, minus the 5.5. The Raiders, they're kind of all over the place right now. I don't know if they still have an opportunity to fall into to get back up into one of the top 2 picks or not, or top 3. I know it's kind of all over the place with those teams right there, but I think the Chargers obviously will still play for a purpose, and I think they'll cover this one.
Scott?
Yeah, the Chargers kind of have the mentality of their head coach. I don't think that they're going to take the foot off the gas. They're going to play until they get the win. The Raiders, in years past have done a good job of playing spoiler. I just with Pierce, I loved his fire when he first came out, but I think that shows you the hard lessons learned of coaches that don't have a lot of experience. Go from position coaches to head coaches. It just doesn't work. So let's go Chargers, and I don't think it's going to be close to the end.
Yeah, it's a tough situation for Pierce because the Raiders have been dealing with a shitload of injuries this year, and that does not help a first-year coach. But to that end, I do think the Chargers are going to come out here and try to finish the season strong, especially now that they have Dobbins back. I am also going to take the Chargers to win and cover. Next in our afternoon games is the first of two NFC West matchups as the 9-7 Seattle Seahawks take on the 10-6 Los Angeles Rams, 4:25 p.m. at SoFi Stadium on Fox. Over under in this one's 39.5. Seattle is favored by 3.
Yeah, I think the Rams will be trotting out old James Garoppolo, so this will be an interesting sighting of him for first time in a while. 39.5 is crazy low. I feel like this game's going over that regardless, but I'm actually going to take Seattle in this one. I don't think the Rams are going to be playing anyone.
Scott?
I think the over-under should be whether Garoppolo makes it to the second half or not. Knee, ankle, foot, shoulder, something. That'll be what I'll put my money on. I actually agree. I think Seattle will win this. I just think that LA just going to pull everybody and not do anything special. They're just going to kind of play out the time.
Yeah, I think Rams are going to be resting starters like you guys talked about. Seattle is looking to next year. Both these teams, I think, are going to finish out at 10-7. And unfortunately, if you're a Seahawks fan, the Rams are still going to get in. So I am going to take the Hawks here to win and cover. We wrap up the AFC East battles as the 8-8 and playoff hunting Miami Dolphins swim to East Rutherford to take on the 4-12 New York Jets. 4:25 p.m. at MetLife Stadium on Fox. Over under 40.5. Dolphins come in favored by 1.5.
Yeah, I still don't know if Tua is going to be playing in this one. What I saw from Aaron Rodgers, though, I think this is Aaron Rodgers' last game. I really do think he's going to retire for real this time after this game. I think he'll go out losing in this one also, so I'll take the Dolphins -1.5.
Scott?
I think we might have the Aaron Rodgers, maybe I will, maybe I won't, maybe I will, maybe I won't, which what drove the Packers crazy and led them to get, maybe the straw that broke the camel's back to get rid of him. I think he's done. That Achilles a couple years ago, just, at that age, the lower body injuries, as you throw with your legs, I just think that took a lot out of him. Being in New York, he's full of other types of, constant controversies of weird things popping up. So I think he's done. Tua, talk to somebody with injuries and head injuries. I almost wish he would hang it up just for his own, life. He's got, life-changing money already. So, but I guess that's here nor there. I think Miami will win this. They've just got more to play for. New York is, they're calling it quits and see you on the bus.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Tua's playing. He's dealing with a hip injury right now, but Tyler Huntley did not look bad last week. And they were playing in cold weather too, and I think that probably helped a little bit because Huntley came from Baltimore, so he's got a little more experience in that than some of the other guys that are playing there. I'm with Miami. That Miami's got something to play for. They have a long shot to be able to make the playoffs. The Jets aren't playing for anything. I don't know if you guys saw the commentary from Garrett Wilson on Instagram. Somebody had mentioned he made a comment about going and paying T. Higgins. Somebody said you should get him to the Jets, and his response was, "I will not be doing that," in all caps. So I don't think we're going to see Garrett Wilson in a jersey in a Jets uniform for much longer. Definitely not if Aaron Rodgers comes back. But either way, I'm going to go Dolphins here to win and cover this one in New York. The second of our NFC West battles is the last of our afternoon games as the currently 6-9 San Francisco 49ers head to the desert for a divisional battle against the 7-9 Arizona Cardinals. 4:25 p.m. kickoff at State Farm Stadium on Fox. 46.5 is the over-under. The Niners come in favored by 1.5.
Yeah, regardless as to what happens tonight, I'm going to be on Arizona still. I like Arizona at home to win this game. It's a meaningless game for both teams, but I think Arizona will play a little bit at home.
Scott?
Oh, wait a minute. We're talking about that game, aren't we? Yeah. I hope to see an offensive juggernaut of a game, just for fun. Good luck to both these teams. I think Arizona will be able to win this. San Francisco's just been racked by the injuries, and let's see what they can do. Basically, when they run it back next year, Arizona, they've played better than I thought they would this year. Marvin Harrison, I was hoping for great things. I mean, second year elite. Let's see what's going on, but I think Arizona's gonna win this one.
Yeah, I think it's a little crazy that so many people are already out on Marvin Harrison Jr. It's just insane to me. I still think he's going to be a hell of a player. It's the first year of his career, and it's not like the Cardinals are burning down buildings.
I mean, he's been good. There's a lot of rookie receivers that are overshadowing him, but that's given with the situation.
Yeah, 100%. Kyler Murray's not exactly, the best quarterback in the league either. So he's dynamic in his ability to be able to move out of the pocket, but that doesn't make him the best passer in the league. So I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Either way, I'm with you guys. I do think that Arizona is going to win and cover. So I'm going to take Arizona here plus the points. Sunday night football matchup is the last and biggest game of the week, possibly the year, for the regular season. Massive playoff implications. The 14-2 Minnesota Vikings ship out to Motor City to battle for the NFC North crown and the NFC 1 seed as they take on the currently 13-2 Detroit Lions. 8:25 p.m. kickoff at Ford Field on NBC. 52.5 is the over under. The Lions come in favored by 2.5.
I wish I knew what was going to happen tonight. First, I'm really hoping we can get through tonight without injuries. I honestly wish. I know that if there were to be a tie situation, that it could screw us. But honestly, I wish that we wouldn't play guys very long tonight. We've had too many injuries this season. I know Dan Campbell's not going to do that. I know the type of team we are. That's not how we play. We're going to go out and play. So it's dumb to say it, but I kind of wish that every time someone gets hit tonight, I'm going to be cringing, just hoping to God they get back up, because it's such a meaningless game to go into the biggest game of the year next week. But obviously, I don't need to pick this. I'm taking the Lions. That's going to be the most insane stadium next weekend. A number 1 seed on the line, home field on the line. I can only imagine what that's going to sound like on Sunday night. But I'll take the Lions and Mr. Big Balls himself, Dan Campbell, with his wonderful Christmas sweater he had on.
Scott?
Completely opposite of my thought about San Francisco. Completely opposite of my idea about San Francisco and Arizona. I really look forward to this one. I think this one will be possibly the game of the year. Offensive fireworks galore, a stadium just juiced. The announcers having a hard time hearing each other in their booth. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think a game of the year. Honestly, I don't care who wins. I just can't see this being the great game of the year. If I have to make a pick, I'd say Detroit's going to win just by being a home game. They've been there before. Minnesota's still learning how to do it. I really like their young coach. So let's see. But I think Detroit's going to take this one, squeak this one out. But I really think it's going to be a great game.
Was that intentional wordplay saying that they're going to squeak this one out?
I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
It's just stuck between the ears.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of a tough one to pick, but I think the difference is probably going to be the home field advantage here. Ford Field's going to be insane. I've been in that stadium with Jake before when it's been loud and the team had only won 4 games. I can only imagine what it's going to be like with the number 1 seed on the line against a division rival in the game of the season. I just don't see how Detroit can step into this game and lose. I am going to take Detroit here minus the 2.5. All right. Jake, who's your lock for the week?
My lock of the week is going to be the Bucks minus 13.5 against the Saints. Like I said, the Saints are kind of dead. They've looked like crap pretty much all season. And Tampa, I mean, they do still have something to play for, and I think this will be an easy win for them. So I'm on the Bucks minus 13.5.
I am going to lock in on Green Bay over Chicago. I just think Green Bay is going to step into this one knowing that they have the possibility to bump up partial of a seed. Last game of the year being against a Bears team that struggled all year. I am going to take Green Bay here minus the 9.5. Scott, you want to give us a lock?
Atlanta. I think they've got as much as they've got to play for in a long time with a young, exciting quarterback. I'm going Atlanta.
Jake?
So my dog, I still am kind of baffled that this team is the underdog. I'll take Jacksonville plus 184 in the Glue Factory.
I'm going out on a limb for no other reason than I want to make a shitload of money. I'm taking Cleveland plus 1,100 at Baltimore. Let's go, dogs. Scott.
You got me there. Actually, Cleveland was my pick. I just think 17.5. So. A way to make some money.
All right, let's go. Plus 1,100. I love it. All right, guys, that is it. That is the last regular season pick of the season for us. We will be back next week with you guys to talk about what the playoff picture looks like. Hopefully we step into this without any more Lions injuries. And yeah, we appreciate everybody that's tuned in here as we've moved into a live stream format as opposed to pushing this stuff out on Tuesdays. We should be getting back to our regularly scheduled format next week, so expect our shows to be back on Tuesdays starting next week. We did pick 4 of the quarterfinal college games just a little bit ago, so you can find that on all of our social platforms as well. We've got some hell of a good football games that are coming up over the course of the next couple days in college. So that is it. Scott, thanks for joining. For Jacob Workman, this is Reese Downing, TNT Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast, NFL Edition, Week 18 picks. We will see you guys next week.